Welcome everybody to the launch of A Window for a Home Without Walls. My name is Uday Dandavate and I'm a senior UX researcher at Google. I'm also Uday's daughter. Today we have some truly amazing, inspiring, and accomplished people here to speak about the ideals and the values that are at the heart of this book. Uday's wisdom flowed from him into the poems that fill this book. He challenges us to live purposefully, to put down our egos and embrace curiosity and optimism, to hold compassion and gratitude for our fellow humans and our planet.
The part that always stands out about Uday, however difficult a situation, Uday is an optimist. He always is able to bring out the positive aspects of difficult situations and his generosity.
So as I read Uday's book and Mukesh's book, I realized that, and I'm sure many of you did this as well, is that while Uday is speaking about his own reflections, his own musings, the moments in his life that have been really meaningful to him, what he is really doing is he's urging all of us, all his readers, to engage in similar journeys ourselves.
When I started working on Uday's book, in fact, when he sent me the poems, I read it and I was completely lost in an environment that made me reflect myself, what I was doing and what I'm doing, what I care for. And I requested him if he could work together on this book together.
And as I was reading this book and I'm thinking about things that these words inspired and these images inspired in me, I was reminded of a wonderful essay that Roland Barthes wrote in 1967, a French literary critic. And the title of his essay was The Death of the Author, but what he actually was referring to was when a text is created, when an author produces a piece of text, the text goes out into the world and the meanings, there are multiple meanings to this text, they all are eternally recreated by the readers themselves. That's exactly what Uday wants you to do. He wants you to take journeys yourself. In fact, he talks about this idea that multiple perspectives, multiple beliefs, multiple goals, multiple pathways, multiple journeys. And he also says a well-designed journey is self-created.
When I read the book, I felt that, I was with Uday every stage of the journey that he was writing that book, because I could relate to everything that he was saying.
And it was easy to read, but each word was really meaningful, and it was really talking to me. And I think those are words that are talking to all of us. I think here are people from all over the world are listening to us, and those simple words in this current situation we're all living and sharing, those are very meaningful words.
I've been looking for ways to ground myself in these historic and unprecedented times, and been looking to things like meditation. It's so helpful to meditate on. The words provide comfort and clarity and wisdom and inspiration. I come from Celtic people in the UK, and we would call someone who does this a bard. So I think a bard of design is exactly what we need at the moment.
Windows for a House Without Walls comes to us at a time when all humanity seems walled in by fear of a microscopic virus, as well as by fear of each other, and by anger and by frustration. But it's not really new. About a century ago, in another book of poems, Rabindranath Tagore observed how much time we spend in building walls that go up into the sky day by day, enclosing our names within a dungeon and losing sight of our true being. Uday's collection is a journey towards that true being, reminding us of the need for windows that can let in the compassion, the wisdom, and the empathy we all seem to need today to survive the uncertainties of this time. There's a lot of love in this book as well. But those words of Charles and Ray Eames saw love as an ability to see the world through other people's eyes, which is the capacity and the quality that enables a designer to be of real service to others and to restore dignity to their lives. The poet's task, as Uday reminds us on these pages, is to challenge what Uday has described as, and I quote, the violence against nature and humanity, and to resurrect the God inside us.
He says, I long to be a river. And why? Because that window to a home that is without walls is something that gives a framework of values. And those are the humanitarian values which he is talking about. And today, that is what is lacking. If we are natural, we are to be humanitarian. So linking the nature with human being will link the human being with human being as well. These two types of relationships are to be binding all of us. And that what is happening around is exactly the opposite. So it is the designer and a poet with an inner passion and an outer, that is broader vision, that is in Uday Bhai, and that is brought up during the lockdown period. He is really critical about everything that goes with violence. And hence the message of non-violence is also very, very clear. It is violence against nature and violence against human being. Both he criticizes with a very, very poetic way. He says nature gives us a reason to pursue a shared ground. And if the human beings do not realize this, they will not be humane to either nature or to living beings at large. Hence the poem, which is bringing out a sublime message, is something that giving us a great hope. When he says that we are only a microorganism in the abundance of the vast universe, it is something that really helps us to shed our ego and also to be one with the other living beings.
Being able to break silos between disciplines is a very important thing, and it's about all of us working towards, whether it's racial justice, whether it's health, whether it's social justice, our connections. I'm in the midst of right now working on something that's called integrated science and society, how we bring the humanities and the social sciences into engineering and sciences. And this book actually can be one of the connecting tissues that people can appreciate from irrespective of what their disciplines are.
So I invite Uday to say a few things now.
My purpose is not to say anything. The poems should speak not about what I want to say, but about what your inner voice says. Question. I don't have anything to tell you. I only have questions to ask you. And my question is, what does it feel like? Because my whole purpose is, in Mukesh's word, like his first reaction is, he said, I feel it, I want to interpret it, and I want to express it. My appeal to you is, feel it, interpret it, and express it. So that's about it.
And I just wanted to just call out, and it also would be very good for teaching, is the really wonderful poem about how to be a mindful ethnographer. I thought it was amazing that that poem really brought to life the process of participant observation or of doing field work, and that there were so many wonderful, the juxtapositions like look but don't search and participate but don't get involved. It was just really wonderful for capturing the spirit of ethnography. There's so many gems of wisdom that are in this book and that sort of make you stop and think. And I have to say that one of the rock, which was brought up at the beginning a few times, about just to be, I thought it was very interesting about, maybe the rock doesn't have a purpose beyond just being, but the way in which you brought to light the many purposes that people bring to the rock. So I thought that was very insightful.
So yeah, you had said you were thinking of creating some music from these poems. So can you tell us why and what is that about?
Yeah, so I've actually already started writing because at school next year there's going to be some restrictions due to social distancing, and that means that the choir can't meet as it normally does. So we're doing a project for an online choir where everyone can submit themselves singing, and then we'll join them all together in editing. It can be like a real concert just online. And so our choir director reached out to the composition students and asked if any of us wanted to write some music for it. And I volunteered for that. At the same time, around there, my dad showed me Uday's poems, and it all just kind of fit together. So I searched through them and found the ones that I felt would kind of lend their voice to music the best. And that while searching through them, I found that the poems weren't like other poetry I've read or worked with, because for music I've worked with things like Emily Dickinson or Robert Frost, Ezra Pound, like those kind of poets, and this poetry is very different to me. It wasn't so flowery or any of that. It was very direct and very humbling. I felt like while reading it, I felt small, but not in a negative way. I felt small, just like in comparison to all the things in the world around us. And I've just from hearing what everyone else has been saying, that sounds kind of like what y'all have been saying too. And yeah, I'm trying to recreate that feeling as best I can through music, and hopefully I can get that performed in the fall. And I'm really excited to have the chance to do that. And I thank Uday for lending me his words to do that with.
I don't come from the design field, but I'm a chartered accountant. In today's world, with so much of anxiety and nobody really knows where we are going, Uday's poems are actually bringing a lot of hope, a lot of curiosity, and the fact that life is going to continue. And that is something that I found was really very powerful, and I really loved it.
So I was his roommate in design school, but when I was reading his poems, I know as a designer he factors the emotional relationship that enmesh the hard problems, and he has engaged with the creative process of changing both the product and the user. I know all about this reading his blogs. But if this has made him a good designer, it did not end with designing. And that's so interesting. This creativity has slipped into poems. And as I read, I glimpse the hidden nest he's nurturing in his mind, where he keeps his collection of unstuck feathers, as he calls it, that he has been finding throughout his global journey of designing. And that's very fascinating. It is in this nest that he finds his clarity. This poet within the designer has made him a good listener. And I really kind of appreciate that part of his talking. Listening to nature, listening to many reasons and multiple perspectives, and beyond reason, though an atheist, to find God's voice in others. That's an amazing capacity to feel like. For him, writing poems has become a transcendental retreat. And now I can understand his source of humility. The title is well chosen. I found it very fascinating. It is evocative of his being, the journey of a river across all lands. But there is a lurking disquiet that the reader can read. At least I read it like that. Does the designer still has an unfinished window for an undecided home? Is there a desire for a frame that can capture the view of the rock that he talks so much, that has survived the mighty tides of history to give a stillness of purpose? I think the window of his house will always look onto a pathway. Will he walk that path and bring the magic of imagination for an alternative world? He will have to design a doorway first.
Thank you for taking time to reflect on the values that this book aims to provoke: humanitarianism, environmentalism, creativity, and optimism for the future. And thank you, Uday, Baba. Thank you for finding optimism in the ongoing crises facing our world today. I hope that we are all inspired to take action and bring these values into our world. As a reminder, if you haven't already read the book, it's available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback formats, though due to COVID, the paperback version is not yet available in India. Thank you again, everyone, for being with us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.